It's back. The world's most upgraded compact Macintosh is about to get even more cursed. It's dual CPU madness, so stay tuned. And if you enjoy taking iconic but broken computers from years gone by and making them utterly unrecognizable, I hope you'll consider subscribing to the channel. So longtime followers of the channel will probably recognize this monstrosity. It's one of the first big builds we did on the channel years ago, and we've lovingly named it the Cursed Mac. Believe it or not, this thing is now way less cursed than it was when we first found it, painted black on Craigslist in 2020. But I see a lot of new faces out there in YouTube land, so let me give you a quick tour of this, my most favorite computer of all time. So this computer started life in 1989 as a Macintosh SE30. When I found it in 2020, it had been spray painted black and a CD-ROM drive had been hacked into the front of it. Since then, I decided to continue the original owner's vision of a wildly upgraded compact Mac, and, well, I put every conceivable upgrade that I could find in here, trying to make it so it was impossible to upgrade it any further. If we take a look on the side here, in our lovely MacFX clear case, we can see some of the shenanigans going on inside. This here is a riser card that has Ethernet out, and on the side of the riser card here is a clone of the Carrera 040 68040 processor upgrade card, and above that is a video card giving us internal grayscale to the original 1-bit black and white display. All of that stuff was made by a fella called Bull, who's on the 68K MLA forums. You might notice there is a USB cable hanging out. I have this wired up to the power supply here to give us 5 volts USB out so we can power something like speakers. This power supply is not original. This is a modern power supply that I have well, kind of hacked up to fit into the case and power all of this nonsense going on in here. I've recapped the analog board, the first one I've ever done. I like to pair this with an ADB Next keyboard, which is fully compatible. I like to use this Kensington trackball because they're wonderful. And using the USB port for power on the back, this lovely pair of creative black speakers. All together, look at this wonderful beast. Let me power it up. Instead of a floppy drive, this thing has a slot-loading CD-ROM. The Cursed Mac is currently running macOS 8.1, which is a bit of a stretch for an 030, but not too bad on the 040 upgrade. And we can actually switch between the stock built-in 030 and the 040 on an upgrade card with this Carrera control panel, which is pretty freaking cool. And for the last 4 years, I've brought this to nearly every VCF show I've exhibited at, and it's been surprisingly my most stable and reliable computer. And well, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, is something I've never said in my life. Someone has recently developed a brand new upgraded power supply for the SE30. We'll toss this thing in and see how it performs. And there's also this brand new socketed 50 megahertz 68030 upgrade for the SE30 by Zigzag Joe, which will leave this, literally and without hyperbole, the most upgraded compact Mac on the face of the earth. Right after this quick word about today's sponsor, porkbun.com. Porkbun has a great deal on .pro domains right now, which are perfect for all sorts of professionals, whether you're a freelancer, consultant, or a digital nomad looking to build an effective digital portfolio. .pro domains can be a great choice because they're simple, easy to remember, and effective. Unlike .com, there are many easy-to-remember .pro domains still available, helping you to establish your credibility with a great domain name. Instead of some convoluted .com, a simple .pro domain looks great in search results, instilling trust, making you stand out in a crowded space, and making users more likely to click. Right now at Pork Bun, get your .pro domain for only $1 for the first year. And free with every domain, Whois privacy, SSL certificates, web and email hosting, and more. All with Pork Bun's signature simple user interface. And named #1 domain registrar by USA Today for the last 2 years running. So come to Pork Bun, have an oddly satisfying experience, and get your .pro domain for only $1 for the first year. Coupon code BEAPRO24, link down in the description below. All right, I have not opened up this computer in quite a long time, and it's held together by a random mismatch of whatever screws I could find lying around. This programmer switch has seen better days. Just look at how dense this thing is with cards that never existed back in the day. The vintage Mac community really makes some incredible stuff these days. Here's the 040 upgrade card. Here's the grayscale video card for internal grayscale video. And here's the riser card that does both Ethernet and allows you to use that 040 upgrade. I'm going to try and fish out this SD card so we can make a copy of it, since I literally have never done that. Different versions of the SE30 motherboard had either a socketed CPU or, like this one, a CPU soldered directly to the motherboard. Unfortunately, this type of accelerator needs a socket. But I'm not going to let that stop us, because this is the cursed Mac, so I have a cursed idea. We're going to pop out this CPU by desoldering it, and then we're going to build our own socket. Aha. Now to make this DIY socket, all I'm doing is taking these little headers here, placing them over the pins and snapping them off. I think this is actually going to come out pretty well, as long as I snap them carefully. Alright, well, not going to lie, this was a huge pain in the posterior, and I'm certainly not going to win any awards for world's best DIY CPU socket, but we got there in the end. Here's a quick tip: don't touch your soldering iron. Anyway, I put the logic board with the new DIY socket in my other normal SE30 chassis, so we can see if it works again with the original CPU slotted into that socket. Oh crap. Well, that's the Samizy Mac pattern. Well, that's not good. Okay, well, I think sometimes it's good to leave your mistakes in the video. I kind of overestimated my abilities with this hot air station trying to desolder the CPU, and yeah, this socket looks terrible. So I went out to Micro Center and I bought one of these Hakko desoldering guns, and I'm going to completely redo everything I've done here and see if I can save this board. And just look how clean that Hakko was able to get these holes. That thing is awesome. So this power supply is pretty freaking cool. It's designed as a drop-in universal replacement for whichever power supply your SE30 originally came with, and you can make it look completely stock because this fits inside the housing of the original power supply. It's built with these 3 Meanwell units for 5 volt, 12 volt, and negative 12. And yeah, a little bit of soldering just to connect power to it because it taps into your original power jack on the computer. Let's toss this in there. And my original power supply is cut down the middle here because, of course, we had to fit the CD-ROM drive in there somehow. So yeah, I think I'm not even going to put this top cover back on. Now, as we get into this power supply, I think you might be able to see why I'm keen to change it. This power supply is actually a hacked up Flex ATX power supply. Just look at this absolute jank fest. So this is going to go in like this. Oh yeah, that's so much cleaner. Look at that. And everything mounts back together with the original screws. Going to use a zip tie to keep these wires in place since I'm not going to put the metal cover back on. Alright, well, I guess let's just give this thing a dry fire without the logic board and just make sure everything is connected correctly otherwise. Fans on. My goofy RGB lighting is on. I dare say this nifty new power supply is a success. Alright, well, back to trying to figure out what in the heck I did to this poor board. And I'm going to start by, well, I have a multimeter here in beep beep mode. And I'm just going to check each pin top to bottom in this DIY socket and make sure it beeps and has continuity. Okay, well, all of the pins have continuity top to bottom, and I've also gone through and checked all of the ground pins to make sure everything that is ground, and I've made sure there are no touching connections that shouldn't be touching. I think what I'm going to do now is plug the chip back in, turn the computer on with this sticking out the back, and we will see if the pins that have power, VCC, actually have power. Well, it goes to show when you're playing around with highly modified 40-year-old computers, things can go wrong, especially if you overestimate your own abilities. But you know, I kind of have a secret weapon for fixing problems that are completely of my own making. Excuse me while I make a phone call. Oh, hey, Steve.
What is it now? Steve's not here right now. Leave a message.
And a special thanks to Alex Hoffman, Alex the Rat, Andrew Nicholson, April White, Chris Biggs, Chris Calderon, Chris Nelson, Control-Alt-Reese, Darren Johnstone, Dave's Garage, Drew Hamlin, Eduardo Fonseca, 3 Hours 9, Frodo Jedi, Gaspar Heller, George Rojansky, Graham, Greg from Rutk Mods, Harris Brody, JS, James Fryman, James Laurie, Jason Pepas, Camille Rakowski, Lyle Truid, Matthew Crowell, Nick Daniels, Oh It's Just Jose, Paul Spencer, Ryan, Scott Cedarbaum, Scott Thompson, Steve Sullivan, Tom Woodfin, Unknown Soldier 41, Veronica Explains, and Xantronics Industrial, who are my highest tiered patrons and all of my Patreon supporters for helping to make these videos possible.